hi, this is Darren from the LastRP.com grave restoration service, and we're going to go through today the equipment that you will need if you are going to restore a grave. Behind me is the stone that we'll be using today, and I just want to go through the equipment that I feel is important for you to understand that you're going to need if you're going to do some restoration work yourself. Okay, we'll start off with the main piece of equipment that we're going to need for this, and that is a good water supply. We recommend that you bring your own water supply with you. This can be in a container like this, which is a portable pump, or even a bucket and a little container similar to ones that you may find on a caravan. The reason for that is that you're going to use a lot of water when you're cleaning the stones, and some of the graveyards that you will be visiting may not have access to a serviceable tap. Okay, the next piece of kit that we're going to bring along is a common garden dibber. This is used to test the soil around the stone that you're going to be cleaning, to make sure that you're not working around an area that is boggy, marshy, or in other way could actually affect the stability of the stone that you're working with. Some of the weights of these stones you'll be working with can be anything up to a ton in weight. So just to be on the safe side, we're using a 2.5 ton ratchet strap. These should be sufficient to support the weight of any stone that you're working with, especially the bigger ones, which could be over 6 foot in height. To secure the stones and the ratchet straps, we recommend using a fairly sturdy anchor pin. Because we're working outdoors, a high visibility vest and also a hard hat to protect yourself from anything that may fall from overhead. As you can see behind me, we've got a tree. Things could fall on you while you're busy working on the headstone restoration, or if you're working on a headstone which has a crucifix. Well, there's a good reason for wearing a hard hat. The next thing we're going to use is a nice pair of strong secateurs. This is for tending to the grave bed. Some graves will have overhanging branches or parts of ivy or thorny bushes that just grow into the flower beds. Secateurs will cut through most things. The second thing you're going to need to protect yourself from any sharp edges, from any thorns, is a good pair of gardening gloves. We need a good trowel and gardening fork to tend to those flower beds. And we recommend using a plastic ice scraper just for getting a bit of the difficult bits of staining off of the headstone. The final two pieces of equipment we're going to need are brushes. We recommend using a nice soft car cleaning brush. These can be picked up for only a few pounds, and what we say is, if you're not going to use this on your car, you shouldn't use it on a headstone. The final brush is a slightly more stiffer with a smaller head brush, and this is just for getting into some of the nooks and crannies that you can't get in with a car brush. So that covers the equipment that we're going to need to use to clean this headstone. Now let's get on to the stone. Coming to the stone we're working on, I can immediately see a hazard. Just at the side of this we have some broken glass, so it's important that we collect all these and dispose of them in a safe and appropriate manner. Going through our risk assessment. First piece of equipment we're going to need is the dibber. We're going to test the condition of the soil around the grave to make sure that it's going to be solid enough for us to safely work. Now we're going to consider the headstone itself. The sort of hazards that we need to identify are, firstly, the weight of the stone. This particular stone in this example is made of sandstone. We know by research that per cubic metre a block of sandstone can weigh anything up to 2,300 kilograms, which is nearly 2.5 tons. This block of sandstone we've estimated is about 250 kilograms, and you can imagine if that was to fall on you, that would actually be quite painful. Continuing then with the risk assessment, we also need to consider the stability of the headstone before we commence work. This particular stone is a really good example. It is sitting at approximately 90 degrees from horizontal, and we consider this to be within the safe parameters. it's important that when you come to work on a stone that you don't do anything that could possibly damage it. But I just want to place both my hands on the side of this headstone, not standing in front or behind it, and just give it a gentle rock. Now I'm fairly confident that this block of sandstone is secure enough to work on. Okay, the stone we're working on today is well over 100 years old, and as you can see there's a fairly extensive growth of moss on the surface of it. The byproducts of the moss themselves will start to erode away at the surface of this stone. Eventually, if left untreated, the lettering will always fade away. So that's the end of the actual risk assessment. The next stage that I'm going to do is take some photographs of the grave to be worked on. For the customer, this gives them the before and after pictures, but for the workforce it enables me to identify any hazards that I have written down on the risk assessment itself. So now we've completed the risk assessment, let's go on to the cleaning of the headstone itself. We've identified the hazards, these have been briefed to the team, and now we can bring the team in to start doing the restoration. So here we can see my colleague Dave has now completely covered the headstone in fresh water. All stones are porous, and by coating them in water, any surface impurities through salt or minerals are now suspended in that water layer. So now me and Dave are going to start the cleaning of the grave itself. So on go the gloves, and we start work from the bottom. The reason for this is that we're going to get rid of all of the soil, all of the moss and anything else that could potentially stain the headstone straight in the top. If we were to start at the top, the motorbike would go past the shop. If we were to start from the top, all of that staining would actually run down the surface of this headstone and make our jobs a lot more difficult. So now that's got us down to the stonework at the plinth of this headstone, and as we said earlier, we need to be using plenty of water. So Dave is going to wash off all of that soil and all of that moss that we've just agitated with the scrapers. Now we can already see a colour change at the bottom of this headstone. So I'll just... Okay, so we've been at this now for a couple of hours. We're really impressed with the finish that we've managed to get on this headstone. It has used a lot of water, and this is our third jerry can. And it's important to remember this job's going to need a lot of water. The final thing we're going to do as this headstone is drying is just to discourage the regrowth of that moss on the headstone. And we've got the diluted ammonia solution. We're just going to lightly spray this across the face of the stone. We're then going to leave that for a while and then just run another layer of water over that just to clear away any concentrates of ammonia. Within a couple of days it may rain, but we're hoping that this is going to actually preserve this headstone in the nice quality that we've managed to get to for a good few years to come. The surrounding masonry of this plinth is going to receive the same treatment as the headstone. So we hope that once this dries out, with the diluted ammonia solution discouraging the further growth of lichen and moss, that this stone will start to take on its natural colouring and return to the beautiful sandstone texture that it started out with over 100 years ago. Once the job's complete, it's important to remember to take all of your rubbish with you. We've collected all of the pickings from the flower bed and all of the other debris, take it out in a carrier bag back with us. Make sure you take all of your equipment with you, and also any chemicals that you've got dispose of safely. So that's grave cleaning by LastRP.com. I look forward to speaking to you in future videos when we move on to bigger projects. Take care. Dave!
Yeah?